Hello. um, yeah, so the geopolitics point of view to teach kids in, and I guess I kind of just came to this realization at the end of my associate's degree here, and yeah, that's kind of what I want to like remember for myself. So I'm doing these videos, and it gives me a belly laugh, but also it makes me sad because it really is truly how far we've distanced ourselves as Americans from independent liberty, in that we raise kids to be highly political and kind of steer away from their own independence, left or right. And so let me read the comment I made on Dan. So he had uh, this was like 7 days ago on the We Hold These Truths podcast, great podcast. And he had a man named William Ruger on. And so the debate, it was focused around the Russia-Ukraine war, America's role in Ukraine, and does America have a duty to defend sovereign nations? And then the guy introducing the debate, he didn't introduce himself, but he gave a quote from George Washington in the 1780s saying, like, you will know you've fucked me over as soon as the foreign interest debate overrides your domestic interest debate. I'm paraphrasing, but George said something like that. And I loved the guy giving the introduction, and I wish I wish it was an option even to like debate in college right now, but it's not. And there's not mediators. It's not encouraged at any of the universities I've been to, and I've been to a few as I've been looking to find a place to live that's safe and American based, and then also where I want to actually finish educating myself for my degree, again, which is chemistry. Yeah, so I won't ignore social problems. That would be dangerous as a chemist to ignore social problems, and there are a tons. So yeah, I always keep in mind, well, really everything, and then I'm quite a lonely person, so I have nothing to think about but my fellow Americans and history, my family's role, which has been unique. And I'll touch a little more on that. I want to get better at like trying to communicate to my audience, like where I'm coming from, which is really hard for me because I'm still learning where I'm coming from. So I want to keep practicing that. And like, again, these are all practice videos. I just did some speech homework where we had to give a demonstration, and fucking with my hair right now, it's just going to be the way it is, guys. Just letting the practice be what it is, because I would love to have real live debates, especially as I'm finishing up, even though it's like the most nerve-wracking thing to think to do, because I've been attacked for my political views. I know other people have too, but then it's like, well, then if you aren't going to do them while you're in college, when are you going to do them? And so still kind of treading water on that and seeing what I can actually do in my life as I finish up here that won't put me in any more danger than I have already been in. So, okay, so this is what I said. Oh, sorry, but I'm going to be all over the place here, guys, because I want to do it casually, and then I also hate this lighting right now in my hair. But I'm just gonna change it. Hold on. The lighting, I'll just change my hair. It's going to look this way. So after the George Washington speech, he gave another example from after the War of 1812, when all the American states had indebted each other, took out a loan from France, defaulted on that, took out another loan from the Dutch, made some weird plans there. We still need answers on that. Some really weird fucking plans. And then immediately you fucked over George Washington. So we don't need to go too much past 1812 to see how much you all cared about your own individual devices. I mean, you men, then liberty for your children and grandchildren, because it happened immediately after. And that's just no real surprise to people who study history, especially English, French history, like mainly America comes from. So yeah, par for the course. I'm trying to remember the 1820s. It was like some poetry. Oh yeah, it was John Quincy Adams. And he was just like, you could tell, trying out the word salad, like, liberty, but what about helping others? And so that evolves into obviously millions of Europeans coming here in the 1850s because they couldn't be men in the countries they were from, and then they were convinced that they could come have it much easier if they just listened to the ethnic groups that they prescribed to as they came to America, and or whatever thing there's so much in the 1850s to go through. As far as early American betrayal by massive ethnic groups of Europeans shortly after our independence. Savages. And so wheat wealth, you have the American farming definitely taking over the bullet to such a degree that it disgusts me. Good thing the snacks are amazing. Otherwise, I'd be much more bitter. I love snacks. So, so John Quincy Adams, word salad, greater good. People get to build a bunch of wealth based off of feeding people while having their own private proxy political desires actually in effect. And then the commentator from the John Quincy Adams quote gave, and again, I'm paraphrasing, John Quincy Adams, word salad, my opinion of his word salad. That's what I just gave you. And then he did a Woodrow Wilson 1920s, just like super, super great, concise word salad. And then Dan and this man entered the debate where Dan says strategic partner, lottie dottie dottie. The other guy, the premise was all wrong. And so I'm just agreed right off the bat. And my reply, because we need to back it up to post 1812. We need to back it up all the way to the end of George Washington's bit, because that's when it got fucked. People are like, when did it go wrong? When did America? When did we go wrong? Immediately. It went wrong immediately. It's really hard to tell people who are planning for the future of their great-grandchildren, their grandchildren, to not step on the liberties of others and to not overstep their own bounds of what they can actually promise their children within the rights of America. So this is what I said. For America's role in Ukraine, it all really depends on what Americans involved in foreign matters of any kind wish to do domestically. And this is the realization I genuinely just came to at the end of my associate's degree here. Yeah, entirely. It's all us. We are the superpower. That is the truth. There is no Europe really. There's not really any Africa. There's not really any Asia. I don't want to comment on Latin America. It just makes me sad. If anything, I feel like there's more of a Latin America. But we have been the controlling interest. And so it's definitely more what are certain Americans planning domestically and what have they been able to get away with as far as foreign matters go. What scapegoats are people looking to use foreignly for what they've done domestically? And that's just been the reality. I do have to go grab my charger. 1 second. Okay, thank you all. By the way, audience, thank you for being here with me and my future self who's going to review this to get better at sharing my point of view publicly. Okay. Back to what I was saying. So our role in Ukraine and really our role in any foreign wars through the rest of our lifetimes here in America depends on other Americans involved in foreign matters of any kind, what they're wishing to do domestically. Ukraine and Russia are irrelevant truly. The Democratic Party formally and informally declared war in 2020 against half of American citizens by using the Department of Defense to label them domestic terrorists if they did not comply with the CDC and the Democratic Party. We are not coming back from that. That already happened. Everybody saw. That is common knowledge. And what's actually really dangerous is for everybody to be in this hands-off, I don't want to deal with it attitude. No, and that's like the one duty as Americans is you need to be able to have an opinion in the form of liberty at the very least. You need to know that you're entitled to your rights at the very least, and you need to know how to teach your children or how to share that commonality with another person, that you're entitled to individual rights, that you have a duty to uphold your rights and sort of what that looks like. And so I think everybody can agree that what half of our government did in 2020, first of all, the ultimate act of tyranny, telling you don't have access to livelihood, that will not be forgiven or forgotten. That, if anything, that's just a marker of the start of America's Cold War, internal civil Cold War, because you had them use the Department of Defense to declare war by calling half of American terrorists if they did not comply. So we have an ultimately half our government purely tyrannical, nothing American about it, except for that it uses the stolen valor of the term American and the deeds that it is claiming to live off of as American when it is not. Because it's committing absolute tyrannical acts. And so, that's awkward. And I said that in my quote, like super awkward, right? Not at all new. In England and in France, we had been doing it. And I want to say we, because I want to touch a little bit on my family history. And I hope that more descendants like me who live in America will come forward and talk about that, because we have so many farming families here from the 1850s after 1820, you generally have a population in America that does not have an ancestry of warfare. They have an ancestry of being servants, in servitude, slaves. They were not at all in command of anything, including the ownership of their farms for hundreds of years. What you had before that massive group of fucking Europeans who came here because they were hungry, homeless, and in servitude perpetually. What you had before that, those millions who wake up every day in America like our founding fathers. No, bitch, not your founding fathers. Before that, you had groups from the civil warring tribes, I guess. And what they knew good and well was how long these petty grievances can actually last, what you're asking your children and grandchildren to take on before they're born, and how long that can just continue. And all the terrible things that come with this addiction to conquering, but also to defending honor, to fighting for the truth, what will actually be written in history, what's allowed to move on, and that's a bit more of the reality of what the people fighting in the Revolutionary War were planning and thinking of, is the future of their great grandchildren, and what was going on at the time. But they knew that they wouldn't necessarily live to see it because of how quickly the temptation is to take freedom for your own personal desire and then make plans around those personal desires. Yeah. These fucking farmers. You think you grow wheat, you grow corn, and you think, why aren't people happy? They can eat as much wheat and corn as they want. They can drink as much wheat and corn as they want. I don't get it. Right, because you just got here. And I have family lineage from that part too. It's mostly just like my humor right now. It's just like these millions of farmers thinking you can just feed people. But that does relate to Ukraine. Again, it's a country that was doing 20% of the wheat exports, and had a lot of child rape and breeding happening in a country that's very much a World War II foundation, where they were doing biological experiments. And then we've had Nick McKinley from Deliver Fund testify on YouTube that there were breeding camps by Americans and Westerners for pornography, and then adoption, selling of children of a certain genetic background to both Western Europe and then Asia. So, and he was in the CIA and now does Deliver Fund, one of the only companies in America looking to free children from sex slavery, which has become such a problem that Deliver Fund had to invent a new computer to even begin to fathom how to handle it. So that's the end road of just saying we're going to feed people to freedom. No, you're going to feed people back to servitude, like where your grandma came from. And that's what happened. And I recognize, and this is my work to be done on myself, that the most innocent people are side by side with the most evil, and that evil truly is insidious. And when you have evil and freedom right next to each other, oh, it's the most insidious thing of all. And that is something that a lot of the people who had families in the Revolutionary War understood that their great grandkids would be seeing that ultimate evil with the guise of ultimate freedom. So thank you to some of my grandparents, you wise, wily coyotes. And I'm never talking about it to be like, ooh, my grandpa. I only have so many ancestors who I could even look to for any sort of comfort in this life. And Mr. Captain John Jr. Jocelyn and Abijah Jocelyn and the other Captain Peter Jocelyn are all ones, and then their wives. My grandma, I want to say her name was like Faria Kazan or something. She had 15 children throughout the Revolutionary War. No, like 16 children. She had a lot. Some died uh, very young, and then she kept on. And I love thinking of her and my grandfather's relationship because they're fighting for liberty and still trying to like live their life and making those plans for their great grandkids. I'm sure they were betrayed by their kids in a lot of ways. Who knows? I don't know what happened to all the branches. I only know that I'm a teeny end of one of the branches. And of course, you have like hundreds of grandparents. I actually really look forward to meeting other people in America who have relations to the captains Jocelyn. It was funny enough is my great grandma, her middle name actually was Jocelyn. And I wondered a bit about that because with the darkness of the experience of my life and what my parents and grandparents did to me through embryo to now. Well, not anymore. It's what I have to tell myself. Otherwise, it'll be really hard to fully feel free in this life. But I wonder how much that comes from their whatever they held on to or what some of the grandkids did after the Revolutionary War. Because I was just looking through my ancestry because the guy who comes through the line at the coffee shop I work at was talking about his ancestors' role in the Revolutionary War. And I love that simply for the fact that it's like, oh my God, like our grandparents were fighting for this country. And now you and I are having like I'm selling you a coffee and we're having this conversation 200 years later. Like that is so fun to me. So I love that. And so his family had founded Hartford, Connecticut, and they had been shipbuilders. And the last name it wasn't Cook. Maybe it was. I think of that last name a lot too. I know that's an old one. Sorry, bud. Forgot. Fraser? No, that's a different one, but also older. Anyway, this guy, his family came through there, ultimately moved this way, and of course, all the branches. But I just love that some of us have that relation, and I wish we would get together and talk more because I know there's going to be more ethnic groups than people might originally think involved in that early revolution. The Institute of the Cincinnati just released a video back in February that was about Blacks in the Revolutionary War, and these are paintings I have never seen before. And that was super awesome. Haven't viewed it yet. I need to get in the mindset for coming back to that study of Blacks in early American history, other ethnic groups. I have like random Judaism spread all over the place. So that's actually very interesting, thinking of that evolution, really the evolution of all ethnic groups in America. That is so underspoke to, which is why I wish we would get together as like actual grandkids of revolutionary families and talk about things like America and get to see each other's faces. And I just wonder like how many people around my age today who have like a branch in that relation but don't know, because of like the ethnic category the propaganda puts them in, whatever lies they're raised in, because it's important to me, and so I know it would be important to other people if they're seeking that. Not that you need that as your background to understand your birthright, to have that Revolutionary War history, but it's something that can be exciting, and it's helped me move forward, because I haven't at all grown up with my freedoms being supported by my family, because they committed crimes against me. So, uh, I just wish we would do that, and that's something I'll look to do, is getting like, hey, Revolutionary War kids, where you at? Talk about it. We would have conventions where like everything would be non-GMO wheat based. So it's like the one rule is like no high fructose corn syrup and no GMOs. But we would have like tons of bread and cookies, beer, just like so many wheat products. It would be like wheat themed. Anyway, that'd be really cool. Yeah, and so commenting on Dan's thing, I don't know if I finished what I wanted to say. Okay, so we already have, our country declared war, ultimate tyranny. We're there. Been there before. There's a lot of Americans who came here first generation who left that sort of thing and were like, fuck socialism and all the gangs that go along with it. It's the worst. Not raising kids in that idea, especially because this idea is actually so easy to uphold as long as you don't trample on others, really, and can stand up for yourself to a degree. So yeah, we're already there. Cold Civil War. You're not going back on it. That's the reality that kids are being taught in, American kids, and being raised in, is they know that one side wants to eliminate the other side. That is like really being ignored right now by a bunch of adults. But I guess if you don't know any better yourself, you wouldn't know to teach around it. So good luck for coming to there. I'm sure you're all going to do great. So, and like my simple solution to that is like the beauty of having that realization is that people hopefully get a reform around their birthright a bit more. You're born endowed by certain rights, by nature's God. You have the right mainly to self-determination. And if you are denied that, you're under tyranny. And I wish more people would take on the belief that they are entitled to their rights, that they're born under their rights, and what it looks like when you don't have those. And because in that way, as kids are growing up right now and having to plan their futures in the reality of a split country, because we are split. That's point blank. We're split. hopefully people see more independent options in that split, but you might not because you're just trying to move forward and plan your life and get education and work. So hopefully in that, they see more of what their rights are and what they can do with their rights and what other people have been doing with their liberties above them. That's the hope, because when you're prepared that way, you're not going to be surprised when you go, let's say, work for the YMCA and it's like political propaganda, or you're going to go work for some union and you're like, oh shit, union propaganda. At least in that way, you'll get to retain what the idea of independent individual liberty is and self-determination, compared to wherever you're going to learn and work, and that you're not needing to become subservient to those ideas because you've already entered them with the true idea of that liberty. So that's my hope. And then my question was, how do you teach then? Because we can't, like, the propaganda and thank God left and right isn't going to stick because it's not going to keep unfolding to be true. And like the more that comes out with the American child sex trafficking, that's going to, people have to answer for that. There's been neglect. There's been people complicit. So how do you best cushion that blow? How do you best keep things from going to shit? And you at least have to remind people of what's most true and simple, and that is the individual liberty and self-determination. And I guess the things that differ is how to get and how to maintain those things. And that's just fine. Then we'll all go our own ways in that realm. I'm learning so much, and I'm glad to almost be done and get back to my life, which apparently I haven't really been living for myself. Yeah. But I've always been thinking of my fellow Americans. And so at least I've been doing that, because I would hate to have gotten some things wrong or very wrong. And to see in all these ways where people have been hurting, and all these places where they haven't been entitled to their American rights, is horrifying, actually. And to see how it's painted over and word salad over, and I'm glad that I'll never forget that as long as I shall live, since I spent so long just trying to pay attention to it all and get it right. And yes, I don't think my grandfathers or their wives, Mr. Captain Jocelyn, would at all be surprised. And I'm grateful to have that, because I can plan for my children's freedom way better with the truth and the knowledge that stems from it. And I really hope to see more people claim their American freedom over the different versions of communism that have flourished on these free grounds. And I am in acceptance of how the foreign relations thing could get quite out of hand. Oh my God. Because we really are everywhere. And like I was saying in my video of the Cold War, I was like, we had 500,000 soldiers just in the area of Iraq and Kuwait. And yeah. And I guess that's what numbers and wheat and corn will get you, is at least you're there. And that doesn't mean that what they've done individually isn't purely American. Um, that's a point I need to make sure to make, because I know I'm not always clear in that. But I don't believe, no matter if it was a communist ideology that ultimately made the decision, for any of our American soldiers that die in the line of duty, they die for what they claimed they would die for. They died for American liberties and for protecting liberty, no matter how they were used or weren't used. And that's that's something that I've always held to inspiration, and to encourage myself to move forward, for people who do give that ultimate sacrifice. But I do want to separate from the stolen valor aspect as far as the media goes, in using that emotion and in using, I guess, those sacrifices to build an interest in whatever they are trying to do for what is oftentimes un-American. So, yeah. Anyway, it's not for nothing if you're keeping true to the super simple facts and of independent individual liberty. So much self-determination. Oh, just so. And yeah, it really can get confusing. It really is hard to come together with other people on these values, and then to not be embedded with the fucking just propaganda shithole. Like, oh my God, is it just so? I loved my education, but as far as like politics or history goes, it is fucking garbage. It is hardly accurate, and I wish people would start questioning narratives more historically. The woman who cut my hair, I loved it. She had said she was doing social studies with her adoptive daughter, a teenager who was doing World War II, and she liked the different perspectives on World War II that she was discussing with her daughter. And I was like, yes, because there isn't one fucking perspective. And that's why you can just be swayed like the cattle you are. So stop it. Get your own perspective, raise your kids in at least a questioning atmosphere, if you can't be decided in your answers of anything, because that is far better than saying just read the books, follow the directions, and you're going to live a happy, free life, because that's the opposite of true. Anyway, thank you myself for this video. See what I said to Dan. Dan, thank you for being such an advocate of the First Amendment actions and defense by constant debates with Americans of all professions. Thank you, William Ruger, for your arguments. And again, the premise was like, well, no, it's all domestic Americans are in control of foreign interests. And that's why the wealth disparity is actually what it is, because people have been doing a dance over and around liberty for 150 fucking years after they got their bellies full and didn't have to fear whatever they were fearing in Europe. And so yeah, thank you, because I love having something to debate and comment on that challenges me and helps me reform my own idea, which I am still forming. All right, until next time. Thank you.